So I broke up with Johnny. um, Not for any reasons you might think. There's nothing wrong with him. It's just the situation we're in. You know, for one thing, he's very young. He's only 23, and I'm 34, and it made me feel some kind of way. Like I couldn't get over it. Like when I was at the group home, there was this guy there named Arturo who was 25 when I was 31 or 30 when I was 31. And as much as I liked him, he was so fucking mature for his age, and he had his head on straight. But there would be all these moments where, like, I realized I was teaching him stuff, and it just felt so weird. Like it just felt like he was still a teenager, and it was just awkward. And there was another girl there, this girl that we call Baby J, that is a friend of ours, who also had a really big crush on him. And I was like, well, I'm just gonna set the two of them up because he's 25, she's 18. They're so much closer in age that I was like, it will be more appropriate for the two of them to date than it would be for me to date him, and it just wouldn't feel so awkward. So they ended up being a couple for a long time, and it worked out for them for a little while. Then they broke up, and it ended up being really messy breakup and all this heartache and heartbreak for Arturo, and Jade did him totally dirty and wrong and all this mess. But ultimately, it still, I think, was a better outcome than it would have been for me in my 30s to date someone in their mid to early 20s. So now that I'm 34 and Johnny's 23, he's in his very early 20s. Like, at first, I didn't know he was that young. I thought he was, like, maybe his late 20s, 28, 27, something like that, closer to my age. But when I found out he was 23, I was like, okay, well, there were some signs of some things that kind of alluded to his age range. Like, he's not necessarily immature, but like he spends a lot of his time on like social media, so like a lot of Snapchat. He's constantly, like, when we would be at the group home doing what we call psychosocial rehab, the groups I would mention about the college level groups with the psychosocial rehab program, and that's hosted at the same location where the group house is at. It's just a different building where they have the PSR groups and stuff. Like, he wouldn't, it's like he didn't understand that that's the only time we would have to spend with each other if we were going to be a couple and we were going to build our relationship. So it seemed like he would spend a lot of his time split between being on Snapchat with his friends and spending his time split with the people at PSR and wanting to go hang out with his friends and do all this stuff. So he just seemed kind of young, like just young, like fresh out of high school, where you're spending all your time wanting to be with your friends and spending a little bit of time with the girlfriend, and it's like socially acceptable to be running all around trying to squeeze in everybody with a little bit of time that you have. And I'm like, it didn't feel like I was dating someone my own age who would prioritize spending his time with his girlfriend like a 30-something-year-old man would do, rather than running off to go spend time with the friends or being on Snapchat and squeezing in your girlfriend in the conversation every few seconds. Or he just seemed young. So it just kept ringing in my head like, this guy's 23. He's 23. He's behaving like someone who's 23. And like, are you sure this is what you want to do? Are you sure this is the path you want to go down? Because this is pretty much the way it's going to be. Like, he's part of an NGRI process, which is a not guilty by reason of insanity process. But it's taking him a while to get through it. Like, it took me 13 months from the time I got arrested to the time I was back as a U.S. citizen with my rights restored and living on my own back in the community. As part of that not guilty plea, you have to go through so many steps before they let you back as a citizen who's free. You're not under threat of going to prison. You're not under threat of being in a maximum security psych ward. You're not under threat of having your rights revoked from you as a citizen, where you can't drink, you can't do drugs, you can't get a car, you can't, there's so many things you can't do when you're going through a court process like that, where it's either you go to prison for your criminal charge or you go through the NGRI process so that you can be not found not guilty of it. And it's, he says he's been in the psych ward for 2.5 years. And so you can basically go from psych ward to group home to back to the community as a citizen, or you can go from psych ward to what they call 48s, where you spend 48 hours in the community at a group home, where while in those 48 hours you go to the group home to do psychosocial rehab for 8 hours a day on those 48 hours during those 24-hour periods. So for 24 hours a day, you go for 8 hours to psychosocial rehab. You go back to the group home for the remainder of the 24 hours of that day. The following 24 hours, you go back for 8 hours for psychosocial rehab. The remainder of the 24 hours a day, you go back to the group home. And then the rest of the week, outside of those 48 hours of that week, you're in the maximum security psych ward. And you just do that for however long it takes you until they feel you've done enough groups to hit a point system, which you need 16 points before they feel you can come off your 48s, where you then go to live at the group home permanently, where you do more psychosocial rehab for 8 hours a day while you live at the group home, and then you can go become a naturalized citizen back in the community, where they take you off of all the conditions, everything, and then you are a free citizen again. So one of those steps, processes, is obviously a lot more complicated than the other one, and it's a lot slower. And if you have to go the 48s route, which is what Johnny is doing, it's usually an indication that your mental health is very slowly getting back healthy. And either you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, which means you're not going to PSR, and if you don't hit the points, the 16 points that they need, which basically means going to enough groups throughout the 8 hours during the 48-hour period, or when you're living at the group home and doing 8 hours every day while you're just living at the group home, you still have to hit those 16 points every however many months it's going to take you, which on average takes 6 months. If you're going to enough groups, it should take you 6 months minimum before you're out of the system. It's just the general rule if you're responding to everything properly the way you should be. So it took me 6 months to hit my points and 1 month to find an apartment to live in before I left. So it took me 7 months at the group home. And my process was like, I got arrested, I went to the psych wards. It took me 7 months to find a medication that I responded well to, and then it took me 7 months at the group home before I was back to being a free citizen. So from my arrest until the point I was back to a free citizen, it took me 13 months total, which was like record time. And they were like, you're doing very, very, very well. You'll be back to the community in no time. So I went through it very quickly and very smoothly because I followed orders. I responded to medicine very quickly, and I wanted to get back to my life. So, like, it went well. But Johnny's telling me that he's been in the maximum security psych ward for 2.5 years, where it took me 7 months. He's going the long route. So now he's on his 48s. And any time someone tells me they're on their 48s, I'm like, okay, so they're not responding very well, which means they're going to be doing 48s for a year or two. And then after that, they get to go to a group home where they're going to live for probably another year to 2 years. And then there's an additional step. If you live at the group home for, let's say, a year, and they notice that you're taking a long time to get on board with everything, they'll put you at an apartment that is on the same community with the group home and the PSR buildings. So it's just a whole lot out there with multiple apartment complexes. And you get to have a roommate, you live in the apartment complex. This is where, like, my friend Ruby and her friend Sarah, before they stopped being friends, like, this is where they would live, in the apartments on the property. And so it gives you a imitation living in the community experience, where they get to monitor how well you live on your own because you're already living at the group home. So they're like, instead of sending you to the community, we're gonna basically kind of like back off you a little bit, give you a little bit more freedom and space to breathe, because they can't leave you in the group home for so long because they need the beds in the group home for patients coming out of the hospital. So they put you in the apartment, and it's like once you hit the apartment, you kind of doomed, because then a lot of people wind up doing drugs and alcohol and having sex and getting comfortable and not going to PSR, and like they just kind of fall apart. And once people hit the apartments, they wind up staying there for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and they just get so comfortable because they feel like they're back into their normal life that they just stop trying. So I think Ruby has been in the apartment for, what's it been, 3, 4, I know we're at 4 years now, and I think she was already at the apartment 5 years, 5 or 6 years she's been in the apartment. And I just overheard her say when I was at PSR last week that she had another year on her record now that she had to that she had to live at the apartment. So she's coming up on year 7, I believe, of having to be at the apartment. So she's still in her NGRI process, and it's been like 10 years that she's been trying to get back to living in the community and off of her criminal charge. So that's how it goes for some people. They hit their 48s, and by the time they get to the apartments, like, it's been a good 10 years of attempting not to go to prison for an insanity plea because they just won't do the right thing. And it's not that they're mentally insane at that point, because they've been on medicine for this whole time. It's that they're mentally lazy, or they don't want to go to PSR, or they'd rather get drunk, or they'd rather do drugs, or they'd rather do this, or they'd rather do that, or they're just comfortable and they don't feel like doing it. Like, most of those people just don't feel like it, and they say that all the time. I don't feel like doing this. I'm an adult. I'm 40 years old. I'm 60 years old. Why do I gotta listen to what they say? They don't have any control over me. And so they just sit there. And I'm like, you could be in a whole nother state, living your life, married, dating. Like, you could be having kids. You could be doing anything you want. If all you gotta do is go to PSR for 8 hours. Like, it's not 8 hours a day. It's like 5 hours a day. I'm like, all you gotta do is go to PSR for 5 hours out of the day. You got the whole rest of the day to do anything you want to do. All you got to do is not do drugs or alcohol. They send you to AA and NA. All you got to do is just do the thing, and you could be out of here in like 6 months. It's not that hard. You could be totally free and back to normal life in 6 months' time. And they can't figure out how to do it. So Johnny is like, I'm hoping he doesn't go down that route, but he just is now on his 48s. And I'm like, it doesn't give us any time to ourselves. Like, it doesn't give us any time, like, to actually be boyfriend and girlfriend. So I have to make myself go to PSR just to see him, because I'm not part of any criminal process anymore. So they allow me, the group home that I was a part of when I was part of the NGRI process, they allow me to come back to the property to take part in PSR. So they're like, you can come back anytime you want to. Like, we welcome you. We welcome our former patients, obviously, for whatever reason they would like to come back. So I'm welcome to come back, but I go to PSR just to give myself something to do and be around people, because I'm just lonesome in the house by myself sometimes. So I go up there just to have some human interaction sometimes and see some familiar faces. And that's how I met Johnny. So I'm like, so I go up there just to see Johnny, and I'm like, in between the PSR groups, I'm just sitting outside with some of the friends I've made over the years from being up there when I was up there. We're just up there shooting the breeze, smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee, eating, doing whatever we're doing. And he comes out in between these 45-minute groups, and he's running all over the place and on Snapchat and doing all this stuff. So I'm like, so we're not really getting to know each other very much. So I'm like, that's what our relationship is going to be looking like for the next, 5 years. I'm like, there's no sex, there's no personal time to sit around and watch movies, there's no going out on dates, there's no nothing. That's the nature of our relationship, is going to bond for 15 minutes, 4 times a day, and then that's it. And then when he goes back on his 48s 2 times a week to the house that he's staying at, the group house that he's staying at. I'm allowed to come over to the group house, but we can't like just go to his bedroom and hang out. I gotta hang out in the living room with him and his roommates and chill on the couch, and I gotta watch whatever they decide they want to watch, and that means there's no privacy for us to have conversations with each other. And it's just it's strained. It's not what a 34-year-old woman is looking for in a relationship. It's just not. So it just wasn't fitting me right. So I just told him all of that. I was like, it's just not, it's the situation that we're in. It's not ideal for me. It's not what I'm looking for. And I said, it has nothing to do with you as a person. I absolutely adore you as a person. You have an amazing personality. You're wonderful. You're right up my alley with the whole goth punk vibe. You know, if we were in a totally different situation, I would love to have dated you. But between the age gap and the situation you're in with your NGRI charge, it could be a very long time before you and I properly get the opportunity to get to know each other and actually bond with each other like a proper relationship goes. Like just spending 15 minutes together every few hours and doing that for the next several years. I'm like, we can't go out anywhere. We have no alone time, with no privacy. We have nothing whatsoever. Like this doesn't have the opportunity to actually bloom into a functional relationship at any point in time, because you're so far back along in the process that this could take you many years before you're actually back to being just a citizen of America. So I'm like, it's not a good situation to be in for any type of relationship at all. Like it's not a good time for you to be dating anybody. It's not a good time for me to be a citizen trying to date someone going through an NGRI process. It's just not a good situation to be in. So we broke up. We broke up. So that's just something I wanted to share. I adore Johnny. He's absolutely adorable. But it's just unfortunate. It's not a situation you want to be in. Not when someone is mentioning that they're on 48s. Like that is like the slowest version of getting through an NGRI process that there possibly is. If he had said, yeah, I'm getting ready to leave the hospital to go move to a group home, that would have been a lot more hopeful, because he could have been out of that in 6 to 8 months. But 48s, that shit takes years to get through. Because anybody who gets sent to 48s, their mental health is not on board. Whether it's actual schizophrenia that's got them fucked up, or it's their motivation and their laziness that's got them fucked up. Something is going wrong with them, and the staff at the hospital is aware of it and telling them, we cannot let you leave this hospital as someone ready to move on to the group home, who's showing that they have the mental capacity to go back to the community in the next 6 months. Like something's going wrong. So it's the slowest version of getting through that process possible, and it's just gonna get in the way of any type of romantic relationship you want, because that is them saying you're not prepared to go back to a regular life yet. Like they know that that's what they're trained to do. They're doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists. Like they know how to deal with this shit. So he's not ready for a relationship. It's really what it comes down to. He's not mentally there yet. And he's super young, so he probably doesn't even understand the significance of what's really going on right now. Maybe that's why I went through it so fast, as I was already in my 30s. I've already been to psych wards in my early 20s. I already learned losing your freedom sucks, and the importance of wanting to be free, and the implications of getting in trouble with the law, and all the things that's happened in the last several years with the courts, whether it was something I did or something I didn't do. Like I've learned the lesson, and I'm just a little bit more mature than someone that's 23 years old. So like I went through it quick, but he's young, and I think it's just gonna take him a while if he doesn't get it, or whatever's got him going to 48s instead of just going straight to the group home. It's gonna take him a while, and it's just not a good situation for trying to date. So we broke up. So just wanted to share that. So I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.